Bluejay Mining is known for its projects in Greenland and Finland, and its footprint has expanded further with the acquisition of the Thule copper project. For more on that and other news from the company, I'm delighted to be joined by Managing Director Eric Sondergaard. So, Eric, to the most recent news. Now, I know when the new board, including yourself, came on board, you were focused on cost reductions, which we'll talk more about later. But the Thule acquisition came at no cost to the company. So how did you manage that?
Thanks, Sarah. Well, Bluejay's we've had a large operating presence up in Northwest Greenland for a number of years. Obviously, the Thule project sits adjacent to the Dundas Ilmenite project. Because of the work that we've done on Dundas, we've accrued a huge number of exploration credits on the exploration license that contains a Dundas project. So we've been able to expand the existing exploration license, which covers the Dundas project, which to now cover sediment-hosted copper showings within walking distance of our existing license boundaries.
So that's pretty serendipitous. But I'm aware that BHP Billiton are sort of operating and doing maneuvers within the region in the northern hemisphere. I'm wondering if a strategic partnership with them could be in the offing.
Yeah, it's certainly copper is definitely drawing attention from a lot of mining majors at the moment. We're probably comfortable doing this on our own for the short term, but it is the type of project. It has the size, it has the scale that would attract the attention of majors, of which we know there is at least one specifically interested in this particular project.
So talk to me about the mind mapping of this copper acquisition. What state is it in now? What are you going to do?
Sure. So the Thule Copper project began as a desktop study back in around 2019. We started seeing sediment-hosted copper showings as we were flying to and from the project site of Dundas between the airport of Kanak and our existing operation camp in Morusak. We kind of pivoted that into a desktop evaluation of all the historical work that's gone on. There's been pretty limited historical work done on the project, despite it having all of the kind of key hallmarks to host a White Point style sediment hosted copper deposit. So our next steps really will be to get back on the ground, verify a number of the historical showings, and just remap what's been done, and then assess from there.
Okay, I'm just wondering, is that element of the business funded? Because I do know that there's been a placing recently in which the board of directors took part in.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we'd be well funded to undertake a work program of this type. Obviously, we have an existing exploration camp set up at Morusak, which gives us an easy foothold into the region, which is otherwise a fairly remote part of the world. The early stages of exploration at Thule are fairly low cost as well. It's some helicopter hours flying up to verify existing and new hosted copper showings, sending the assay results back to the lab, and then mapping it all into a geological program. So we'd be well funded to take this on ourselves.
It's just that since you've come on board, not just because of you, but the corporate strategy has expanded. It's expanded to include helium and industrial gases. So this is why I'm going to push you a bit further. Does the company have the financial resources to follow so many trajectories?
I think we do. We have strong support from our existing shareholders. Obviously, the board participated in the last fundraising to a degree that the board probably hasn't in the recent history of the company. Good projects will attract exploration dollars, be it from our own existing shareholders or from third parties, so mining majors or other strategic pools of money.
So in terms of the placing that you took part in, you participated at around double the level that the shares are currently trading at now. Does it put you off buying more shares when you're not an insider?
Absolutely not. The future right now, we know we've gone through the painful process of reducing our workforce to align more with our, the actual exploration activities that the company has undertaken. But the future honestly has never been brighter for Bluejay. The project baskets that we have are great. We're looking to add a few other kind of key strategic projects to the portfolio, and the board, I think, will continue to follow alongside shareholders if we have to go back and tap capital markets again.
It's interesting that you say the future is bright for Bluejay. I'm wondering if your previous large shareholder, Sandgrove Capital, are now kicking themselves because just before the end of the most recent tax year, they disposed of all their shareholding. So I'm wondering, whether they have any regrets or whether that's the big seller finished with now.
It could, to be honest, Sarah, it could be a bit of both. I think Sandgrove was looking to exit prior to the end of the tax year, as you suggested. That was a large overhang on our share price, which has now been cleared. And we hope to prove them wrong. Obviously, exiting at a historic low is our opportunity to show them that we can turn the ship around, and we're committed to doing that.
So in terms of the ship, is it steering mainly towards the Dundas Ilmenite project? Because I know that, well, first of all, what was the wisdom behind reverting to the prior mineral resource estimate for that project?
Sure. So we, as an outsider watching the Dundas resource update come out from the 2022 work program, we were surprised and kind of shocked to see the reduction both in grade and tonnage of the deposit. So it was one of the key kind of items to get our heads wrapped around when we came in, was to diagnose what exactly happened with that work program. Really, it came down to the selection of the drilling method that was used. It was a method that's not typically used for mineral sand deposits, which you need to essentially take a representative sample of the subsurface, and doing that with a diamond bit and water is really challenging. So we discussed this with our external geological consultants, and they said that there's merit to reinstating the existing mineral resource estimate for the project.
Mineral sands is becoming a big investor theme as investors become more aware of the critical minerals that are required for the carbon zero economy. So I'm just wondering now, from your viewpoint, you've got a great geological, intelligent brain. So should it be Dundas or should it be Disco?
For us, we're really focusing on our copper weighted projects moving forward. That's our key mandate. Thule copper is a step in that direction. Disco is typically seen as a nickel and copper project, but there's really several percent of nickel should that be realized as well. In Finland, we have Hemisphere, which is a copper dominated project. And going back to your point on Dundas is a fully permitted mining project. So it would be silly of us not to try to investigate what we can do there, because it does still represent our nearest term pathway to cash flow. But there are still some issues that we have to work out with the last work programs that were undertaken there.
And what issues are they? Are you able to share them with us?
Oh, sure. It just goes back to the reinstating the existing resource. Obviously, for us, no project suffers from adding more grade and more tonnage. So we're going to look at different ways to do that. What we've also learned over the last few years is that the source of the Dundas ilmenite sand comes from a mineralized sill that sits underneath the sand deposit. That sill is at or above the grade of the sand deposit. So we're going to assess to see what can be done economically to see if we can include that as part of the resource.
Okay, so let's go back to Disco. It was the very sexy signature project that a lot of investors were focusing on over the last 2 years or so. In terms of the last RNS, I wasn't sure about the tone where partner KoBold was concerned. Is KoBold such a high caliber partner just as committed to Disco?
I would say KoBold is committed to disco. They're happy that we're back at the driver's seat, and we're looking at undertaking work programs in 2025 and beyond on a co-funded basis alongside them.
So Disco, Dundas, and now Thule. Can the company focus on those three strands plus the helium and industrial gases concurrently? Is that the strategy?
I think so. We have a committed operating team. Obviously, Disco represents the single largest upside opportunity in our portfolio. We're very fortunate to have seven large gravity anomalies, large enough spatially to host a deposit along the size and scale of Norilsk. We have, we're surrounded by other mining majors in the area. Anglo American now sat adjacent to us for a number of years. And we've operated in the country long enough to know our way around the regulatory system to move these projects forward on a timely basis.
Wonderful. Eric Sondergaard, Managing Director of Bluejay Mining. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Sarah.